we're inviting Detroit, Michigan native, former WBBL. I can never say those letters right. Former WBBL and GB forward Stephanie Gandy. Stephanie, how are you?
I'm doing great. Doing great.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Excuse me. Before we start, I want to just try and kind of set the scene for how I first came across you in the league, playing in British basketball. At the time, I was an assistant coach with the Solent Suns, based here on the south coast. We'd had a great season in Division Two. We got promoted, and we knew that Sheffield Hatters were one of the kind of storied teams in kind of female British basketball. So we were obviously a little bit nervous when we first came to play you, but as you do when you first meet a team for the first time, you watch what they're doing in the warm up, and you see who's kind of suited up and who's got their boots on, who's wearing Nikes, and you do all the kind of stuff you do pre-game. And we saw, we'd obviously scouted you. You'd played a few other teams, and um, we were like, "Oh wow, is that Stephanie Gandy? Because she's not that tall, and I haven't even seen a jump at all for a rebound or anything. Like, yeah, that's going to be fine. That's going to be fine." And anyway, we got into the game. Obviously, we got battered. We got hammered by you guys. I think we lost by about 30. I think you probably scored 30 of those points as well. Um, and after the game, I just thought, wow, this woman, she can really play the game. And you were very efficient. You came across as a very savvy basketball player. We'll see if we can corroborate that this evening. But also, you were really personal, really professional. Like after the game, you had nothing but kind of smiles and handshakes for the opposition, and I just thought that you were a real class act, and you've been that way for the time I've watched you play throughout the kind of, I don't know, 15 years that you've played in the UK, however long it is. Again, you can correct me kind of later. I've always just thought that you were really class act, and I'm really humbled that you come on our show tonight and you're going to share some of your journey and some of your experience.
Okay, cool.
So humble as usual. So, tonight, this is the second week of four episodes in which we're talking to some of the best female players in the game, players who have been there. They've played here, they've played abroad, maybe they've had a college career, and as a result, they've experienced lots of different coaches. They've been witness to very different coaching styles. They've played in some very competitive teams, maybe played in some teams that weren't doing so well. Um, and I think that just puts you in a great position to help us understand this kind of coach player relationship. I know that, and I'm not going to tell your story for you, I'm going to ask you in a second to do that. But I know from my personal experience, when those relationships, when that communication works well, amazing things can happen, for both players and for coaches. Equally, when things maybe don't go so well, that can have a really serious kind of impact on, not only your ability to compete, but also, the quality of the experience, the value of kind of actually
Hmm.
being involved in basketball and the journey. And we're just going to kind of look at some of those things tonight and see kind of how that's been for you. Um, so I'd like you to maybe just start with telling us about your basketball journey. Where did it all start from you? How did you end up in the UK? And just talk a little bit about that to get us started.
Okay, cool. Um, just basically growing up, basketball was just a thing. You live in America, basketball is a thing. But to me, I never really, well, got into basketball until about the eighth grade. So you're talking about 13 or 14 years old, when everyone was starting at about 4 or 5 years old. And one of my teachers just came up to me and was like, "You're tall, you can play women's basketball." And I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to play women's basketball kind of thing. It's one of those when you get picked just because you're the tall kid or you're the fast kid. So it came to me really naturally basketball. I mean, playing basketball was the easy part. I always tell people, like, you get on the court and you just do what you love. And then obviously I went to University of Michigan, and that's where like I've learned all my structure and organization. And you're talking as like a 17-year-old kid coming into a program like at a big top 10 school, and you're thinking 6 a.m. workouts, 6:30 weights, class at 8:30, 8:30 to 3, training 3:30 to 6:30, study table at 7, and that was my routine for 4 years. So now when I come out and I'm thinking I want to travel, and my mindset was, why not travel the world for free? And that's literally what I've done for the last 20 years. I've been to a lot of countries, filled up 2 passports, British and American. Got my citizenship, so now I've got like the best of both worlds, as far as like traveling and citizenship goes and things. And I got to Sheffield after I had a bad experience in Denmark, and my agent was like, "Oh, it'll be an easy transition to play in the English league kind of thing." But when I came over, and like it wasn't high expectations at that time for like the English league. You had Europe and you had England, and that's basically how people looked at it. But I think my like that league brought the standard up, and you came in and you were like, this is a time when like not a lot of teams had American players. It was kind of like frowned upon. Everyone wanted to have pure British teams and win as like British players and things like that. And I guess Americans only, to me, haven't like really been a part of the league until what, up to about 10 years ago, if that long. So I think it was like I came over at a time where everyone was like British, and you had a couple of Europeans in. I guess because of the cost of bringing like an American in to play and stuff. But when I first got over, it was kind of like, oh, okay, it's not as bad as I thought it was. And then obviously with Betty being my coach and stuff, she was just hard as nails, and you couldn't help but want to play hard for someone like Betty. And yeah, so 20 years, what, 15 years later, I'm still here.
You're still here.
Yeah,
Awesome. Well, look, that's a pretty.
you keep. I still can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Hey, Steph, can you hear me now?
Nah, I can't hear you.
Okay. Just bear with me. Just bear with me. Right, I'm going to put a question in the chat box. So the question I'm asking, and hopefully the sound will pick up, is at what point in your career did you realise the importance? I'm sorry, I'm talking like I'm a robot because I'm typing at the same time. Did you realise the importance of coach player communication?
Did you realize the importance of coach? Um, well, I guess early on, as a kid, I realized the important coach player communication because, like you said at the very beginning of the show, like if you don't get along with your coach or you don't like your coach or their coaching style or if they yell at you too much kind of thing, you don't want to play for a coach like that. So I think the coach player communication, that's like one of the biggest thing. You know how coaches tell us on the court, you communicate with your team. It's all about communication, communication, communication. I think the same goes for with coach player relationship. And if you're in that kind of relationship, like a toxic one, you just don't want to play. You don't want to play for a coach that yells at you and constantly negative and negative. Whereas opposed to a coach that cheers you on and encourages you, you want to go out and go all out for that kind of coach. So I think it's very important the coach player communication.
Excellent. So obviously, I know you can't hear me, so I'm going to keep typing my questions on this side.
By difference in coach. I think so. When I first came over, and I think I was where was no, it must have been Sheffield. When I first came over to Europe, the coach didn't speak English in Belgium or whatever, and it was hard. So I had to rely on my teammates giving me instruction. The same as when I was played in Spain as well, when a coach like doesn't speak English, all they know is 1-on-1, Steph, 1-on-1. And that was his thing from the side. And you're thinking, oh my God, it's a team game. I do not want to play 1-on-1 for 40 minutes. And you're thinking like, do not pass the ball, Steph, just pass it kind of thing. Over here in the UK, it's more of a, how would I describe it? They don't want to yell as much, but some do, but they don't want to yell. And it's like they have like this thing with not wanting to offend or hurt someone's feelings, or you play for different coaches where some will just yell at you. Like Vanessa, she'll just yell at you. She'll like put all aside friendships and just go 0 to like 100 on you. But I've also like been to a couple of training sessions and things. Um, where the coach has just been like Lee. I went down there for one of their coaching sessions, and he was just like letting the team take the practice, and I was like, "We ain't gonna say nothing." And so he stepped in. He said, "I'll step in when I need to step in." So as far as like coaching differences and things, oh Chris, at Newcastle, obviously playing for him for 1 year, he was a bit get out there, dude. Okay, good job, good job, good job. So he had both ends of the spectrum where he'll yell at you. but then just encourage the heck out of you just to do well. And he just like, so yeah, I've seen loads of different coaching styles.
Okay, cool. So, oh my goodness, my next question is so long. Let me just try and type this out. So, my next question is, so you spent um, almost a decade with Sheffield. This is going to sound so weird when it comes out live. With the Sheffield Hatters organisation, um, one of the most successful teams in British women's history. I don't normally talk like this, by the way. Um, most of that time, you were coached by Betty and Vanessa. Um, what did I just write there? Oh yeah. So, what did you learn from their coaching styles? Apologise for my typing.
Um, as far as their coaching styles go, I would say Betty was just more old school. She was just more, I think, hardcore and old school. She liked things a certain way, and if you didn't do it a certain way, you weren't playing. Whereas I think Vanessa like will give you a chance here or there. It, like depends on how much you're messing up. So as yeah, as far as like Betty's just old school, and she'll make you do a layup drill for half an hour in practice until you make them all, like with your left hand or something weird like a trick shot. If she says does do a trick shot, just do the trick shot. There's no point in arguing with her because she just stand her ground. And that's what I loved about Betty. She didn't take it. She didn't take anything. And it's like sometimes you have coaches that play favorites or don't. Betty had no. If you played hard, you were Betty's favorite that day. And I can appreciate that about Betty's coaching. Whereas the same with Ness, really. She had some of Betty's tendency, but I wouldn't say she was as fierce as Betty was. I think she's a bit more understanding. She's a new age coach, so she's a bit more understanding at times. But you can still tell that like she's Betty's daughter and has a passion and fire in her for winning. She's super competitive, and I just think that just runs in the family. But she's just super competitive and she just wants to win, and she goes about it a more yeah, like I said, more of a like modern approach, I guess, if you want to coach and whereas Betty was just hardcore. If you didn't do it, we ran. If you didn't finish, if we didn't do, you just ran. Like it was no compromise in it. She put you on the court, do what she says, and yeah,
Well, look, clearly something about that approach did
uh,
work.
yeah. But I
That
have to log into
Sheffield were
this
a very
program.
but Sheffield were a very successful team. Looks like Steph's getting some more supplies there. Can you hear me now? Does that work? No. We'll stay with the we'll stay
Yeah,
with the chat.
I can hear you. It's on a bit of a delay, but I can't hear you. Yeah,
Oh, okay, that's cool. That's
yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah. I can hear
Um,
you.
so
Yeah,
look,
yeah.
I'll just as a backup, I'll keep putting the questions in the chat as well. So, but hopefully, I won't have to talk like a robot at the same time. So, my next question is, how important is the coach's opinion of you as a player and a person?
Okay.
And sometimes I've coached with other coaches who treat the players just like they're players, just like they're there to do the bidding of the team or the bidding of the coach, and kind of forget about them as human beings. So, I don't know if you've even had that experience of, maybe the coach's opinion, or at least your opinion of their opinion of you has impacted on how you played the game, or what your confidence was like at any given time, kind of during your career?
Sorry, hang on. I can't. You sound like a robot now. Just can you just type the questions because you sound like a robot,
Yeah,
and I'm
I've
like
typed
getting
the
super
question.
delayed. Sarah,
It's in there.
sorry. Is there any way of just putting that on like? Never mind. I tried. Yeah, I was about to say. I'll do it. Right. Just continue typing your questions.
It's all good. It's in there.
As a player, person I think as far as like coaches' opinions. I mean, if it's the coach I'm playing for, then yeah, of course their opinion matters to me. But I think sometimes like other coaches do have like maybe have an impact on some players, but not me really. Like I take it like if I got constructive criticism from other coaches or they'll mention something that's like I can do better or can be working on, and then I just take it as it is. But I don't really put it I don't know how to like I guess I just play the game. I don't listen to a lot of outside voices. I guess when it comes to playing, I just play the game, if you know what I mean. So, I mean, as far as like my own coach's opinion, yeah, I'll take that wholeheartedly. Even if they're telling me I'm doing terrible or I need to change this or change that, then I would. But other than that, other coaches' opinions, nah.
I like that. I like that. That's strong. That's strong. So, can you reflect on the coaches you've had over your career and maybe share some of the maybe some of the things that you've learned from specific coaches over that period of time?
Trying to get on YouTube. Coaches you had over their career, maybe share something. Um, you, I guess because I've been with Sheffield so long, it's just really like the same old with us, I guess. As far as particular experiences goes that stick out, I guess I could talk about my experience with GB. That was a whole nother kettle of fish. Playing with GB, I played with three different head coaches at that and it was like they were going through coaches like it was no tomorrow. So you can never get comfortable in that kind of situation, I guess, when you're going through so many different coaches and different coaching styles. I think at that point GB was like tougher than it should have been. And yeah, a few coach like you will go in like next summer and then it'll be a whole new coach with a whole new system, with a whole different way of like how to play kind of thing. And so it was basically like you were learning everything from scratch every summer. And this was for about what, 6 or 7 summers. So you went from playing in a season for like 9 months or however long a season is, straight into GB camp for 3 months with a whole different philosophy on things. And I think at the very beginning, it was fun. And then as like time went on and you're like, oh, we got another coach, we heard this, we heard that. And as far as like my experiences and stuff, you just go in. I just like started to realize you have to go in with just a blank slate. You can't go in expecting too much or too little. And you just basically had to learn everything from scratch from the very beginning.
Look, that sounds like it was pretty tough, but I know that you still had a really good, impactful kind of GB season. So clearly, even though you were trying to learn these new things kind of each and every time, you still made an impact on that program, and hopefully you still have more fond memories than you do have negative ones. Right. So the next question is, um, at what point in your career did you, I mean, you've kind of answered this a little bit, but I'm going to delve a bit deeper. At what point did you realize that good communication between you and your coach has to be kind of a two-way thing? It can't be just the coach telling you the way it's got to be. And I know you talked about kind of Betty being very old school and she had a certain way of doing things, but at what point did you start to realize actually the best way for us to achieve our kind of or exceed our ceiling is for the two of us to kind of work together?
Um, I would say probably when I went to Michigan, and it was just a whole different standard. Like it's fine playing when you're like in high school, you're 15, 16, you're a kid. You have to listen to what the adult says kind of thing. But when I got to college, it definitely had to be like a two-way street, only because like you're like on your own now, and there's no one helping you. It's no parent to like tell you it's time to get up for class, or coach come pick you up for practice or something like that. So it was definitely, I think that's when I learned that it was so important that you needed a communication between you and your coach, because you were just basically on your own, despite having teammates. If you were like roommates with a teammate and like a buddy system, you were basically just an adult out in the world on your own. And so it had to be like just pure communication between like me and my coach, I guess. As far as staying on task and staying on time and staying on what I had to do in order to continue to be a student athlete.
Excellent. Well, look, I'm going to
It's not
see. I
me.
don't know if you.
It's not me. It's the
I,
thing. I've already done it. Already done it. Yeah.
so my last, my nearly last question is. So after all these years, kind of playing the game of basketball, can you tell me if
Um.
you've decided to hang up your boots for good, or is there another chapter in basketball for you?
um. This is the lingering question. Every year, I guess everyone always wants to know. I said I was gonna retire, and then I ended up playing for Newcastle for a year. Uh, I actually came back and I was like playing with Sheffield, and I said, "Oh, I have to retire as a Sheffield Hatter. I can't retire in any other club, kind of thing, because I basically am a Hatter." So when I came back just after Christmas, funny story, I said to Ness, I said, "Oh, well, I've just come back from America. You know what it's like. I've got my American weight on." So I'll just do some training to, make up the team numbers kind of thing. And then she was like, "Oh yeah, yeah. Take your time, take your time." So I went to their first home game. Yeah, I was registered to play. So so from there I was like, "Excuse me." They were like, "Oh, why you not playing? Why you not playing?" And I'm like, "Oh, I just train. I just came to watch the team. I just train," kind of thing. So from then on, yeah, I was back to being a Hatter. This season ended didn't end the way I wanted it to. So I think I might, if we get a club back up and running, I might decide to go, give it another try for another year maybe.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing. I'm sure there'll be lots of people very, very happy to hear that. Um, so we're gonna end the show. This isn't quite how I envisaged the show going because obviously we've done as much typing as we have talking. Um, so I'm gonna finish on this. So, do you have any desire to move into coaching once you're done playing?
Um, like I tell when people ask me, I just say coaching's not for me. I think you have to be a certain person to be a coach. I do coach, but I coach younger kids and like 16-year-olds at like a school. And like do when school was open, I coached on a Friday. And that I think that was my limit because my motto was I would probably come by a player like me and I would just lose it. Not that I was difficult to coach, but I would just no. I don't know. I just don't think coaching's like I'm good at it. I know the game. I know the ins and outs. I could probably do it at a very high level because of purely because of my basketball knowledge. But yeah, it's not on the cards as of yet.
Well, look, maybe you could become a coaching consultant.
Yeah, sure, why not? It gives me something to do if we're able to ever play basketball again.
Yeah, you're right. Look, it has been a really tough time. It's been a tough. I don't even know how many weeks. I think 16 weeks now. We've been kind of in lockdown. That's had lots of positives and negatives. For me, I've definitely been kind of reflecting on the sacrifices we make as coaches and players, and the time I haven't spent during the season with my family. So yeah, lockdown has been tough, but I'm confident that we will get out of lockdown, and I'm just aware that Steph might not be able to hear everything I'm saying. Um, so, what's this is my final robot question. What's your biggest takeaway from lockdown, and what are you looking forward to doing the most after the lockdown is lifted? I think that's how you spell it. Here we go. Final question for the night.
Um, Honestly, I think my biggest takeaway from the lockdown was just the time that you never put into talking to your friends or family and things like that. I think I've played my fair share of bingo and everything over Zoom calls as I would like to have played. And it's just you don't realize how little you actually talk to people. You shoot them a text message and then that'll be the end, or you'll be like, "Oh, I'll call you," and never call. So I think that's my biggest takeaway. It's just a lot of family time, friends, a lot of Zoom calls, and just really getting to know each other again. Because obviously, I've been gone out the country. They've been busy with families and things like that. Um, so yeah, so even yeah, when I was over here, like my Hatters teammates, we had a bingo night, with Vanessa and them, and it was just like little things like that you don't really appreciate when you're just busy ripping and running, and you see people like every other day, and you think, oh, I'm tired of seeing them now. But now that we can't see people physically, you're like, ah, okay, okay. So you thinking, oh, okay, yeah. Now it's fun. Now it's like it has to be a game night or it has to be this, like things that you would have just never done in normal life. So I think that's my biggest takeaway from it, really. And then I just realized like how much I actually miss basketball when you're actually in it for so many years, and you think, ah, my knees hate me, my Achilles hate me, like I'm tired. I don't want to run. And then you start to think, oh, I actually miss getting hit and beat up and running suicides and things like that. It's crazy, but you do like miss things like that and you're just hoping that it like actually can return at some point. So yeah, I've kind of like I went through a stage of like I've got to retire because my body hates me. But now I'm like, oh, I can't retire like this. I have to get back out there, kind of thing. And it's kind of a bit motivating, really. Like anticipating when the courts are opening up and stuff, and you're gonna be like, I'm coming back bigger and better. Because I think at one point I was just like, I can't take this anymore. I just need a break. And like when I was off for those 2 months, and it was like the best 2 months of my life, and I was like, I love having my free weekends. No 3 weeks of training, no one yelling at me because I'm terrible. So, and then you think, oh shoot, I kind of miss people yelling at me now. So I think, yeah, just being around like family and friends and like building up our relationship again, really. Well, I haven't even looked as far as after lockdowns lifted. I'm staying in the house because I'm scared of those people out there, the ones that's out at the pubs and stuff. I said to the end of August, and then I thought, no, let's just chalk it up, and I'll put the Christmas tree up at some point, and just hope for the best. Yeah, I'm already. 2020 is already an L for me, so I've been stuck inside this long. A few more months will not bother me at all.
All good. Look, I want to thank you. I'm going to type this in as well, just because, again, I know the sound has been really inconsistent tonight. I want to thank you for joining us, um, and for the revelation that you're not done.
Yeah, thank you. No, thank you for the invite, CJ. I'm happy to come back at any time. It's not like I'm going anywhere.
You're on. You're on. We definitely want you back.
Yeah, it's definitely official. Uh, yeah, we'll see. We'll put back in one more season, some most of it, most of it. Got to get back in shape and get ready for whenever it starts. Hopefully, we can get back at it.
Excellent. Well, look, be amazing. Be amazing. I know you will be. Like I say, we'll definitely have you back on the show. On the show, I can't type amazing for some reason. Um, but thank you so much for coming on the show tonight, particularly with all the technical difficulties we had. You stuck with it like the pro that you always have been and continue to be. And we look forward to seeing you out on a basketball court in the very near future. Thank you, Steph, and thank you everybody else for staying with us. I know it was a bit of a tough one tonight, but hopefully we got some. Well, I know we got some great value from Steph, and we'll definitely have her back on again when everything's kind of working. Thanks very much for your time. Have a great evening. Stay safe, and we'll speak again soon. Bye. Bye, Steph.